Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
A pleasure meeting you. Bhakti Marga Swami here, and thank you for giving time for interview. This program is called Chat on Bharat, Marg. Okay.
Yes.
And I want to say thank you to you on behalf of the readers, on behalf of our e-magazine. Appreciate it. Okay. And you hold a high responsibility of making sure the temples run smoothly in Canada.
I have the responsibility to travel throughout our centers in Canada, and also to see their spiritual standards are maintained, and that RTs are going on services, and that our centers remain as cultural / educational institutions. Like not just a religion, not just a belief system, but a place where you actually learn about the self, learn about your connection with the universe, and the overall creator behind that universe, and what's that relationship. The relationship is called something called Bakti. Bhakti means devotion. It's a devotional yoga. Yoga means to connect with the Absolute, and Bhakti means to do it with love. And one of 9 basic ways to do that. Starting with hearing, being receptive to sound, spiritual sound, and then repeating what you heard. This is called Shravanam Kirtanam.
Wow.
And it works.
Fantastic. You look to be from where? Canada?
Yeah, I was born in Canada. I was born in what's known as the famous, near Uncle Tom's Cabin, southwestern Ontario. This is one of the places where refuge was given to the slaves during the Civil War in America. They came up into Canada for shelter. And I was born in that area. Of course, we're talking about history, early 1800s, but it's a significant place.
Wow. So how did you come in contact with Krishna? I'm pretty sure that your family was not Krishna devotee.
That's right. My parents came to Canada after the Second World War, like many people from Europe did, and they came from the Netherlands. And I was raised in the Christian tradition, as a Catholic. I was very content with it. As a young boy, I used to go to church, to Mass. It's called before going to school. I felt a peace there. I felt a comfort. Then I was raised on a small farm. My dad worked at a factory, and it was like a hobby farm. And I learned a lot of skills, about harvesting and chores and milking a cow and things like that.
Wow.
But I definitely had the proclivity to do more, to come to the city, Toronto in particular, and it's at that time that I met some Krishna monk followers. And we're looking at the early 70s. At that time, the Beatles, the most popular people on the planet were the Beatles. They were known all over the world. Whatever they did, whatever they said, was taken of some seriousness. They were super influential.
Wow.
And they had gone to India. They spent some time with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi at Rishikesh, the foothills of the Himalayas. And there they got a little acquainted with, Vedic terminologies, Sanskrit, the ancient language which gives birth to so many Indo-European languages. They also took to the habit of chanting. The Beatles took to the habit of, just even changing their hairstyles, and their way of thinking. So when they came back from India during that particular period, their music had changed, they had matured. And so because in the lyrics, especially of George Harrison, it becomes very obvious that there's some words here that are maybe, I don't want to use the word alien, but different, like that. And these are Sanskrit mantras, in fact. George Harrison was the one that really grabbed a hold of this consciousness we call Krishna consciousness and took it to another level. So in his lyrics, he's inclusive of mantras and the philosophy of detachment and love, ultimate love. So my interest was really whatever was the interest of the big guys. I listened to them. And since they were popular, influential, they seemed to be making a lot of sense. As in, give peace a chance, say you want a revolution, etc. Well, the revolution was on, and I never was an activist or anything like that by any stretch of the imagination, but I did take some interest in anything that was Eastern, from India, from like that. So I read the books, started to chant on mala, the beads, and changed my diet. I went from a non-vegetarian diet to a vegetarian diet, and it was a pretty smooth transition, I would say. The first time I actually got involved and spent some time with the monks in service to Krishna, I felt like I had been there before. I felt that this is not the first time I've done this. In a previous life, I've been in this kind of a setting, this kind of environment, and I felt right at home. You know, it was the summer of love, they call it. You know, 50 years ago was the anniversary today. And there was an incredible influx of young people from all over America that had descended in San Francisco. And meanwhile, the revolution was going on in Canada, of course, everywhere else in the States, New York, Europe, and so on like that. There was an incredible surge, a wave of interest in values that we call Vedic from the Far East. So I took a fancy to it. The diet, the singing, the early rising, and I felt like I'm home now.
Wow. So how did you meet Guruji, Prabhupada?
Well, our guru, his name is Bhakti Marga Swami Prabhupada, he started the mission in 1965, landed on American soil. He was on an ocean liner from India, destined in September of 65. He started the mission. And his purpose was to create a cultural revolution, you know, to help, say, like, offer to the Western folks a different way of being, a different way of thinking, and maybe even a different way of eating, getting down to certain details that to make a cultural paradigm shift. That was his real intent. And why? Because everybody wants peace, everybody wants tranquility, everyone wants to be in a safe position. So I felt, and of course he felt, that he was offering the best. He was offering something good, that is roots from the antiquity of India. And he was right.
So you met him and then became a Krishna devotee?
I didn't meet him personally. I actually became a member of the ISKCON Hare Krishna Society after meeting his students. I didn't meet him until 2 years later.
Oh wow, okay. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.